For MLive, along with my co-host Nagsheen. Fantasy Football Week 8, we're here with special guest, former Detroit Lions star, the second leading receiver of all time in Lions history, Herman Moore. Thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Do you play fantasy football?
You know what? I tried doing it before, and I absolutely suck at it. So I haven't given up on it. But what I've done is I'm here to learn more about how to be better. You're going to help me be better.
You came to the right place. So
wonderful.
Do other players play fantasy football? We're going back now, to the 90s, and it wasn't as prominent. But do you think a lot of players pay attention to that stuff?
I think players pay attention. I know if I'm a player, especially in today's game, I'm going to want to know my worth. I want to know that I'm getting all these points, and if you don't get in that often, maybe you need to get your stock up a little bit. So I know I paid attention as it started to come on. Yeah, as you mentioned, later on in my career, it started to be more prominent. People were playing fantasy sports a little bit more. But I have gotten involved with it. I do look at some of the rankings and trying to use my knowledge of football to say, is that guy really worth the value that all these other owners are putting stock into these different players?
Right. So I do have a question, non-fantasy related. How would you compare the NFL today as to previously when you used to play? Because now there's the concussion protocol. So how would you compare NFL back then to it as now?
Well, hopefully I won't talk crazy and I make sense. I remember being taken out of the game quite a bit. So the concussion protocol was definitely, as you mentioned, a little different than what you see today, and where you have the online evaluation and all these other things that they go through. But the speed of the game has changed slightly. I think you have smaller players coming off of the edge, especially on the defensive side. They seem to be a little bit more athletic in the linebacker position, the safety position, to cover more ground. The receivers are a little bit, it seems like, not necessarily that they're bigger, but they seem to be utilized a little bit more prominent in the offense versus back then, where it was really a balanced attack. It was always 100-yard running backs. You struggle to find consistent week-to-week 100-yard rushers.
And passing for 4,000 yards was a huge deal nowadays. If you don't pass 4,000 yards, it's like, find a new quarterback.
Right, and if you're throwing the ball less than 30 times a game, that means you probably don't have a pretty good receiving core, or your receiving core is struggling, or offensive line, something's going on. But I see just those are some of the changes. So when you look at the game, you're really looking at it from a scoring impact. You're looking from the entertainment factor of really the quarterback and the receivers. And the running backs are kind of a forgotten gem.
But even though they have the toughest job,
they have a tough job.
They do have a tough job.
They have to block more.
I was going to say, they have to know how to block. Exactly, they have to block a lot more now in those schemes. Now, Matthew Stafford has always been, I guess you would say, a good fantasy quarterback, even when the team wasn't winning. He put up big numbers. Even announcers would say, oh, these numbers are, pointless sometimes because they're just not winning. But now he looks like he's learned to, he's getting a little bit less numbers maybe in terms of yards and touchdowns on a week-to-week basis, but he's learning to win. Is this really a Jim Bob Cooter's doing? Or is Stafford really... is it a combination of just maturity and, you know what I mean? The system?
I think he's matured a lot. I believe he's in a system that plays more to his skill set. If you look at what Coach Cooter has done, he hasn't necessarily slowed the offense down. If anything, he's sped it up, which I think plays to more of the attributes that Matthew Stafford brings. I also like the fact that he doesn't have to take unnecessary risk with the football. He doesn't have to throw the ball down the field consistently deep routes, and also put his offensive line, which is still learning and growing and getting better, in a tough spot of having to hold these dominant, fast pass rushers. So the system, I think, has been geared a little bit more towards Matthew Stafford's ability, and I like the fact that he's more efficient. His interceptions are down, his TV production is up, and he's got some dependable guys who are catching the football.
So what advice would you give, since you're a first-round pick, of course, in the NFL with the Lions, what advice would you give a person that has aspirations to get into the NFL, crack into the professional sporting industry? What advice would you give them since it's so different now?
You have to be mentally prepared for the challenge. It's not easy. It's nothing given. You could be a superstar in college. You could be a Heisman Trophy finalist, winner. It doesn't matter. Win all these major categories. But when you come into the NFL, you go back to the bottom. And you have to earn your keep. You have to earn your way, and it's all about the character and the mindset of the player that will determine whether or not they will be able to be successful in the NFL or even get a chance at being successful, because you get defeated early if you're not mentally prepared to handle the challenges, the successes, and the failures that will come with that game.
Tough.
It's tough.
So there's 6 teams on a bye week this week, and a lot of teams on a bye week. So a lot of fantasy owners are struggling to find some replacements. Lions are on a bye in a couple weeks. As a player, did you enjoy the bye week? Like, let's say you weren't hurt.
You needed you needed the bye week because you had dislocated fingers and your broken bones and dislocated shoulders. So yeah.
You needed recovery time. You needed the recovery.
Do you think you would have put up bigger numbers in today's game, as it's more of a passing league, as you said? Because you put up some pretty big numbers, though.
Yeah.
Without hesitation, without a doubt.
Okay.
I definitely would have put up. There's a couple things. Not only the fact that we'd be throwing the football 20 times more, the fact that the gloves are like unbelievable technology. You should get fined if you drop a pass in today's NFL.
Seriously.
I mean, you really should.
The equipment
You
is
should,
a lot better,
yeah.
yeah.
The gloves are unbelievable.
That's a good point.
And also just the fact that it is geared with the rules and everything for a pass-happy NFL. You want the teams throwing the football. You want to see the big plays, less collisions, less injuries, and
You
you're
don't have
protecting
that
the quarterback.
You don't have that fear factor
Right.
as much anymore going over the middle, because they just can't hit you like that. It's a penalty, or they get fined, or they get suspended.
Right, think-
Targeting or.
Yeah, look at it like this too. In the NFL, how many quarterbacks can we name there that are getting injured off a pass rush? Versus if they scramble, or if all of a sudden they get caught in a pile, maybe. But not because some guy comes off the edge, or they're coming in and they're getting that last little 2-step rule where they can hit the quarterback. Those things now, it's geared towards protection. It's the viability of the entertainment factor, but it's still all fun and game. I mean, it's a good sport, and hopefully the protocol with the NFL concussions and all those things will help keep it going. But I do know fans are getting a little frustrated with some of the inconsistency with the rules.
Right. So I do have one more quick question. Would you start yourself in a fantasy football league?
Every week, you should make me your number one wide receiver. Because let me tell you what, I would love to be in the red zone. And I look back at my career and I go, man, I hope I didn't leave any touchdowns on the table. And I look at the receptions and the opportunities like that. I mean, it's just, it was fun. It's a fun game. It's a fun sport. But you would start me every week and you would make me your guy.
With confidence. Start Herman Moore.
Trivia question for you.
Sure.
Let's see if you remember. Calvin's number 1. You're number 2. Who's number 3 in Lions receiving yards and catches in history?
Right
Team
there.
history? Oh,
No, Johnny Moore.
Johnny Moore.
And I knew
Johnny
that,
Moore.
and I knew that Johnny, Brett, and I were somewhere in that top 5 altogether, and then Charlie Sanders and I think Calvin Johnson, those guys. But
Do you think Johnny Morton would have had an even bigger career? He was kind of the number 3 a lot of times with you guys, because you had so much talent at wide receiver when you were there, right? Or maybe number 2. I just feel like he kind of was. It's a quiet statistical career that he had. In a way.
It was. I think he would have done that. The irony of that is, I was number 1, I think, for 7 straight years, but people may not realize the last 3 years of my career, I was either the number 2 or the number 3 guy, because Johnny Morton and Jermaine Crowell were number 1 and number 2.
Oh, okay.
So
I remember Jermaine
I took
Crowell.
over that position, unfortunately, for some while, so that I think also hurt me in those ranking categories. But for the most part, phenomenal guys I played with, and I mean, absolutely love my teammates and the teams that I played with.
So how much do you miss it?
Miss it a lot.
Yeah.
At times, especially when they're giving you $20 million. I'm thinking 100 catches, 3 consecutive years now would be at least a 5-year, $125 million, with
Does
about
someone wanna sign
$60 million up front. So
Are
You
you
look
ready?
like you could still play
You could
though.
still
I'm
play
still
another
keeping myself in
season?
shape. I'm telling you, I'm about ready to get down here and do push-ups
There
right
you go.
now.
If Tavon Austin, can get number 1 wide receiver money, I can't imagine what you would get in today's.
Hey, even at my age now, I'm
No.
gonna tell you what, 50 catches, yeah. I
You
could
good?
I'll draft you on my
50,
team.
50 is that's what, 3, 4, 8 million a year?
It's on my
now?
team now.
Yeah.
Listen,
I got 2
Zenny-
agents. I got 2. They can split it 50.
Yeah.
I heard you guys like to fight a lot and go after each other.
We do.
So you guys have to argue over your
We
percentage.
do argue a lot.
I do.
All right, well, cool. We're gonna jump into fantasy football in just a minute here. Herman Moore, thank you for joining us today. Is there anything you want to tell? You still live in the area, right?
Yeah, I still live out in the
big
area.
part of the area.
Absolutely, I've been here since I came in the league in 1991. And now I do a lot with sports technology. I have my own foundation, the Tackle Life Foundation. And also, if any of you want to ever keep up with what I'm doing, check me out on Twitter at hman84. And also, you can find me on Facebook. Look for my official page, and also on Instagram. So check me out. Keep in
Utilize it
touch.
all.
And I'm looking forward to hanging out and catching up with these guys.
Yes.
Not just now. Hopefully, they'll have me back. Hopefully, I wasn't too boring.
No.
And I can come back.
You're okay.
Yeah.
So if you had one quick pick of the week for this week, who would it be?
For fantasy football,
Fantasy
who are a
football.
couple of the players that you like?
Just
that are
one.
One player. Well, it's got to be a quarterback. If you're going to go, I mean,
it's
it's got. I mean, a fantasy guy.
Could be anyone.
Well, typically you're going to pick that quarterback. So I would go with probably Brady.
There you go.
I mean, he's just on fire.
Yeah, it's Brady.
I mean, he's going after guys big time.
There you go.
Ever since he's come back, he's been great. All right, Herman Moore. We're going to continue our fantasy football without Herman with Ed and Nagsheen on MLive.com, and our Facebook Live will end now. So thank you again for joining.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So
It's a pleasure.
stop the
Thank you
Facebook
so
one. No,
much.
not that one. The Facebook one. There you go.
All right, awesome.
All right, cool. So let's continue. I mean, if you want to stick around, you can, but we're getting deep now into fantasy sports.
No, this is cool. I wish I didn't have to run.
No, you're good.
But
We appreciate it. Thanks
Definitely.
again.
I'm going to give you a call because
Cool.
I would love to figure out how you do this.
Yep.
Because-
I'll let you know the Facebook Live is great. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Definitely.
Bye.
All right,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
See you.
Bye.
All right, guys.
Let me do that.
Edward
Get
is
into the
gonna
quick
do
pick
his
of the week
thing.
right there. Get
So,
into the quick pick.
Quick pick of the week. You guys might be a little mad at me for this one, but I'm telling you, quick pick of the
Yeah.
week. Brandon Marshall, everyone. Brandon Marshall. You know,
Thank you so much.
he
We're gonna let
has
that go.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, who earned his spot back after the torn MCL of Geno Smith. So you're going to have a good game out of him like last year. AJ Green, I said pick up AJ Green against Cleveland, and he went off.
Okay.
Andy Dalton and AJ Green went off. So look to get, you're going to have Ryan Fitzpatrick going off, and then you're also going to have Brandon Marshall. And you know what's going to happen. So that's my quick pick of the week. I hope you guys enjoyed Mr. Herman on our show. We're going to hopefully have more guest speakers
I'll look
in the
at it later.
coming weeks for you guys to keep it a little interesting. And then we're going to see what Edward's quick pick of the week is.
All right, our Facebook connection may have disconnected, so we're going to look at that later.
Uh-oh.
It's not good.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, so let's let's start with quarterbacks. I don't even hear what you just said. Where did you?
I just did my quick pick of the week, and it was Brandon
okay.
Marshall.
Okay, I do like Brandon Marshall this week as he's got a good matchup. So, because I have as a sleeper this week at quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick. Got benched. He's back in there. He's got a good matchup at Cleveland. So, almost every quarterback has a good matchup this week. So instead of saying who to start, I'm just going to say who to sit. So only a few of them. Phillip Rivers at Denver might not be a good option this week. You still might have to start him, but that's a tough one. Brock Osweiler against Detroit. Houston not doing well. Detroit's defense is playing a lot better. Jay Cutler against Minnesota. Avoid that. And Carson Wentz has not done much the past few weeks. He's at Dallas. Dallas has a good pass defense. I would avoid Carson Wentz this week if possible. So.
All right, so my quarterbacks, I am going to start, of course, Ryan Fitzpatrick, like I said earlier. Alex Smith against Indy. Indy is the worst in sacks in the NFL, so I think Alex Smith has a great matchup this week. Carson Palmer against Carolina because, let's be real, Carolina's corner is not good. So Carson Palmer. And then sleeper, I'm not sure if you said Brock Osweiler, but he's my sleeper.
He was my don't start.
He's my sleeper, so we're gonna make him. He's been terrible every week, so if he doesn't do good this week, he might get benched. So just don't even bother anymore. But he is one of my sleepers. And then Tyrod Taylor, sit against New England because Mr. Hoodie is looking for revenge. So
I'm not against it. By the way, we're at Granite City in Livonia. There's not even a location
we're
in
in
Livonia.
Troy, everyone. We're in Troy.
Granite City in Troy. There's a new Northville location. I'm mixing that up, but not even in Livonia. Why would I say that? But Granite City in Troy. It's got good food here, good drinks and good food. It's actually a really good atmosphere too. So good place to watch a game. So there you go. Running backs, tons of good starts this week. DeMarco Murray, as always. I like Isaiah Crowell this week for Cleveland only because they just don't have a good quarterback, and I think they're going to be running the ball a lot this week. And they don't have that bad of a matchup in terms of running the ball. So we'll see. Chris Thompson might be a little sleeper of Washington. They might have lost a little confidence in Matt Jones after he fumbled against the Lions last week. He's been getting some more carries. Jacquizz Rodgers from Oakland against Oakland for Tampa Bay having a great year. And Matt Forte's back apparently, so I guess start him. He's disappeared for a while. He's back.
Who's Matt Forte?
I know, right?
All right, my running backs. I have Spencer Ware against Indy. Because you know what? Bottom line, he's really good, and I thought Jamal Charles was going to be back and firing it up, but he's still not healthy, so I would not pick him. Christian Michael against the #1 worst run in the NFL. And Jacquizz Rodgers, because you said
That's what I said,
Rodgers
yeah.
too.
Good
So
pick.
I have him as well. And then sleeper. I know you guys are going to be like, are you sure?
Are you sure? I don't know if you're going to say.
Ty Montgomery
Okay.
against Atlanta, because he may be on your fantasy leagues. Check if he's at the running back position, because I've heard and it was told that that's what he's going to be doing. Running back.
I think you can play him at the wide receiver spot in most leagues and he'll play a lot of snaps at running back. So
Yeah.
that's
So,
a good
I do have a
good one to
sit.
have. Oh, I have sits too.
Jordan Howard.
Yeah, I got the entire Bear backfield. The entire Bears backfield, because Langford's going to be back this week probably. So now you got a three-headed monster with Carey. And they're playing. They have a bad matchup too. I would avoid anybody in the Chicago backfield. I would avoid the Denver backfield unless C.J. Anderson is out. He's banged up his knee. He's getting a second opinion from a doctor. If C.J. Anderson is out, Devontae Booker's a good start. But don't expect them to do what they did last week. They got a lot of extra plays because their defense played well and they both did well. I look for San Diego's got one of the better rush defenses in the league too. So start one or the other, maybe. And I would look for Booker this week over Anderson, but we'll see.
All right, so wide receivers. Of course, I said Brandon Marshall. He's my start of the week. Like
Yeah,
I said
me
last
too.
week, AJ Green went off. So did Andy Dalton. So Cleveland, and of course Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to play with that little chip he was talking about on his shoulder. And he did get his starting position back. So I think he's going to go off
By
this week.
default.
Yeah, by default, but still, hey, everything happens for a reason. So Terrell Pryor against the Jets. He should be healthy this week, so I'm going to go with Terrell Pryor. And then DeAndre Hopkins against the Lions. I expect him to go off. DeAndre Hopkins hasn't been really playing that well, but I think he's definitely due. And one of my sleepers, really quick, Julian Edelman against Buffalo. He hasn't done much, but like I said,
He's due, yeah.
yeah, he's
Especially
due.
in
That
PPR.
matchup, I mean, that matchup is just revenge all over it. And then I would sit Alshon against the Vikings. And you said you.
Well, I was gonna.
really
DeAndre Hopkins was gonna be my pick of the week this week, but I didn't have the guts to say it. But if
You
there's
gotta
one
say it.
week he could have a good week, it's this week. Darius Slay will probably be out with injury, unfortunately, for my Lions. So Des Bryant might be back. Watch for that. Obviously you have to start him if you have him. Doug Baldwin's probably a good start at New Orleans this week. Larry Fitz should rebound. Carolina's defense is awful.
Oh my God.
I would avoid Jeffrey, like she said. I would avoid Stephon Diggs of Minnesota, and I would avoid Allen Robinson. I have both those guys, Allen Robinson and Diggs, and it's been frustrating.
Allen
so
Robinson got me 1.9 points last week.
you can't start him right now until Blake Bortles becomes more consistent. So Jamison Crowder and Brandon LaFell are a couple of ads that might be on your waiver wire that are doing good. Brandon LaFell of Cincinnati is a legitimate number 2 receiver.
All right, so tight ends. Tyler Eifert, everyone, he is back. So against the Redskins,
tough start, but,
tough start, but I'm starting him. And then Travis Kelce against Indy, he's also due. And then Jimmy Graham against the team who traded him. So
That's funny. Yeah, I have rebounding this week at tight end, Jimmy Graham
he might be mad.
and
so.
Travis Kelce. They both had bad weeks last week. Jimmy Graham and Travis Kelce look both to rebound.
Yep.
Jack Doyle, for Indianapolis, even if Dwayne Allen is out, Jack Doyle is for real. I think he's the third highest scoring tight end in the
I'm
league.
sitting Jack Doyle this week.
I'm not sitting Jack Doyle ever again. Kyle Rudolph's got a good matchup too. As I said last week, and I'll say it again this week, I would avoid Martavius Bennett. He had a good game 2 weeks ago.
Marcellus, everyone. It's Marcellus.
I'm purposely getting his name wrong because I've never gotten it right. He's Martavius to me. No,
Nope. Martavius Bryant is the one that was on
I know.
Steelers.
I would sit Bennett. He had 2 good weeks, but again, as I said last week, I think it was a one or two time thing, and I would avoid Bennett of New England.
Marcellus.
And Hunter Henry might be out for San Diego. I don't think I would start Antonio Gates if Henry's out. It's a bad matchup.
So defense again. This
Defense,
week,
team defense.
I
Last
only
but
have
not
two.
least.
So I have Tennessee and Dallas, and that's it. I know you're probably gonna have more than me because you love
Couple
defense.
more, yeah. I like to play matchups of defense. Tennessee's a good one against Jacksonville at home because Jacksonville's been struggling big time. Dallas is a good one at home against Philly. Wentz has been struggling. A couple that might surprise you here, maybe. Jets at Cleveland. Cleveland's starting their 17th quarterback of the year, so we'll see how that goes. Although, is it Hoyer? Why can't I think of
I don't know where you're going with this.
There's Josh McCown might be back this week.
I'm like, where are you
There's
going?
so many quarterbacks running through my head. Josh McCown might be back this week for Cleveland. That'll give him a little bit of a boost. And Chicago at home against Minnesota might be a desperationally good start if you want. So Chicago's actually been pretty good on defense this year. They're at home. Minnesota's been struggled mightily last week, but we'll see. And Detroit, even without Darius Slay at Houston, Houston's struggling. Might be again a good desperation start if you need a Detroit at
It's
Houston.
a good game last week. I'm not gonna lie.
So we had Herman Moore on earlier. Check the video out at the beginning. Good 10, 12 minutes with Herman. Awesome guy, very knowledgeable. We asked him some questions about the game and some fantasy stuff. I think the fantasy or the Facebook Live connection may have disappeared. I'll have to check that in just a second here. But thanks for joining us. I'm Ed Nagsheen. We're here at Granite City in Troy.
Make sure you guys keep the comments coming at Nagsheen and at Edward Pevos-auth. His Twitter account will be on there. Thank you again, guys, and we hopefully see you next week.